From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Afternoon Edition.
Right now on the Afternoon Edition, masked suspects shown on video are still on the loose. The plea for help from the owners of a family business. Good afternoon, I'm Elizabeth Cook.
And I'm Ryan Yamamoto. We start with rapidly changing developments in Russia. The U.S. is now responding to a short-lived armed rebellion that shook President Vladimir Putin and his government. President Biden spoke in just the last few hours, and Natalie Brand has the latest from the White House.
President Biden and U.S. allies are watching very closely after mercenary troops initially fighting for Russia revolted. The leader of the group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, marched his troops within 120 miles of Moscow before both sides called a truce.
But it's still too early to reach a definitive conclusion about where this is going. The ultimate outcome of all this remains to be seen.
Most analysts see the unrest as an unprecedented challenge to Russian President Vladimir Putin's 23-year reign.
These extraordinary events not only give the appearance of weakness, but actually show real weakness by Putin.
Tensions have been growing for months between Prigozhin, the leader of the Wagner Group, and Russian defense officials. Prigozhin accused the Russian military of killing his men with a missile strike in Ukraine. On Saturday, Wagner troops crossed into Russia and headed toward the capital. They halted after Russia ally Belarus helped negotiate a deal.
President Biden has spoken to Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. He assured him that no matter what happens in Russia, the U.S. stands behind Ukraine.
John Sullivan is the former U.S. ambassador to Russia.
I would think the preeminent concern of American officials today, who's in control in Moscow, and in particular, who's controlling the largest stockpile of nuclear weapons in the world.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian soldiers took advantage of the chaos in Russia to go on the attack, clearing Russian trenches near the town of Bakhmut. It's part of a major counteroffensive operation aimed at driving Russian troops out of Ukraine.
And President Biden said today he has been talking with allied leaders about the events in Russia.
They agreed with me that we had to make sure we gave Putin no excuse. Let me emphasize, we gave Putin no excuse to blame this on the West or to blame this on NATO. We made clear that we were not involved. We had nothing to do with it. This was part of a struggle within the Russian system. I also talked at length with President Zelensky of Ukraine. I'll be keeping in contact with him. I may be speaking to him later today, early tomorrow morning, to make sure we continue to remain on the same page.
We'll have new developments on this story on KPIX.com and streaming on CBS News Bay Area.
This morning, police are searching for 3 suspects in a frightening donut shop robbery caught on camera in Oakland. Take a look. This happened just before 1 a.m. on Friday. You can see the masked men inside the store. Suddenly, one of them jumps over the counter, holding the employee at gunpoint. The owner of the shop tells us the robbers got away with cash and says they've dealt with break-ins before, but this is by far the boldest.
We're just trying to make it, and this is my parents' American dream. And I guess what's disheartening is for my parents to tell me that they've operated here in Oakland for close to 40 years, and this is the worst that they've seen it.
Oakland police encourage anyone with information on this to call them.
Activists in San Francisco are demanding a city budget that, as they put it, prioritizes poor and working class communities. They held a rally just a short time ago in front of City Hall. People held up signs chanting slogans urging city leaders not to make cuts in programs that they say are vital for San Francisco's most vulnerable residents. That includes housing assistance and child care. And they accuse the mayor and other officials of considering rollbacks in funding that has already been approved by voters.
I'm sad that we have to be out here in one of the richest cities on planet Earth asking our mayor not to slash our basic human needs and rights to the bone. There's a lot of talk going around in room 200 about revitalizing San Francisco. I hope the folks up there remember when they're making this budget that you can't revitalize San Francisco if you don't invest in San Franciscans.
Mayor Bree told us last week cuts to child care are on the table to help fill empty offices in the city, adding current child care services will not be impacted.
All right, let's switch gears just for a moment here and get a look at our weather on this Monday. Hi, Darren.
Good morning, or I should say good afternoon. A dramatic change is coming. by the end of the week. And we got a couple more days where we're going to stay like this, where the marine layer's around and the temperatures are coming in below average, much like right now where it's 55 degrees in downtown San Francisco. And if we go inland to the Tri-Valley, it's still in the 60s here. Probably make it into the low to mid 70s today, and you're thinking, oh yeah, that's typical. That's what we've been doing. There's nothing unusual about that. Only there is. Because daytime highs over here in the Tri-Valley should be in the mid to upper 80s on average right now. We haven't been doing anything like that. And when we look at what's coming our way, here we are. That's today and tomorrow. We're still in the mid 70s, but the warm-up coming our way by the time we get to Friday and Saturday is going to be quite noticeable. We're not going to be breaking records when we do that, but we are going to be so different from where we've been that we're going to start drawing people's attention to this. I'm going to go into more detail on what this looks like for the rest of the Bay as a whole coming up in the complete first alert forecast. In the meantime, there's your Monday and Tuesday. See you in a bit, guys. Back over to you.
Hope, love, pride. Proudly presented by Pet Food Express and Broadway San Jose.
Well, it was a weekend of celebrations for Pride here in San Francisco. Check out the thousands of people descending on the city and taking part in the 53rd annual Pride Parade and celebration. This year, threats and violence against this community are on the rise, and hundreds of bills seek to restrict LGBTQ plus rights all across the country. And partygoers say, and that we spoke to, now say it's more important than ever to show their pride and uplift one another.
It's really widespread throughout the country that, there's violence against trans women of color, and so we have to stand and we have to be visible in who we are, and we can't be afraid of who we are.
We also saw some notable faces among the parade. Mayor London Breed, there she is. State Senator Scott Wiener, very tall, can't miss him. And former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and that's Adam Schiff riding right next to her. After the parade, the party spilled into the Castro. Celebrations continued well into the morning.
And today marks 8 years since gay marriage became legal in all 50 states. The Supreme Court ruled that same-sex marriage could not be banned, but there is growing concern now that the current Supreme Court could reverse that ruling. If that were to happen, Prop 8, which bans same-sex marriage, could take effect here in California. That's because it's still in the state constitution. An amendment to remove it is expected to go before voters in November of 2024.
And if you missed yesterday's special Pride coverage, you can still see all of our Pride Month stories right there on our website on KPIX.com and streaming on the free CBS News app.
Meanwhile, the Supreme Court is allowing the congressional map in Louisiana to be redrawn to add another majority black district. The state was sued last year after Republican lawmakers made only one of 6 districts majority black. That's despite the fact that black people make up a third of the state's population. Today, the Supreme Court lifted a hold on the case after making a similar ruling about Alabama earlier this month. A lower court judge has already ruled that the contested map in Louisiana likely violates the Voting Rights Act.